Well, Thursday. This is indeed a Thursday night, but for whatever reason, this definitely feels like a Friday night for me because there's a lot to talk about. I found out several things in the past, I would say hour, maybe 2 hours, something like that. So there's a lot we need to get into. I'm going to bring on our guest as well. You guys asked for him to be on the stream again, and of course, everybody knows that I listen to my listeners, so we decided to bring him on again. Clint Foster, what's going on, buddy?
Hey man, big news night tonight. I was actually editing a new video I'm working on, and I got a text like, "Hey, you want to come on the show?" And I'm like, "There was like big news." I was like, "What big news? I've been editing."
Yep.
I'm like, "Wow, okay, let's do this thing."
So, and I also have this idea. I kind of dropped this on Joey at the last second, so I don't know if he's talking to you about it. So, what I want to do this evening. So, basically, what we're going to talk about, one of the biggest things we're going to talk about, we're going to talk about a bunch of things, but one of the biggest things we're going to talk about is it's been nailed down. The exit of Texas and Oklahoma will be July 1st, 2024. That's happening. That's a done deal. The combined buyout that they will pay is $100 million, which means that the Big 12 gave up roughly 60 to 70 million to get rid of Texas and Oklahoma just a little bit early. So my idea this evening, so we'll have even more interaction with the audience, is through the super chat. What I want the audience to do is to give not me, but Clint Foster video ideas for the parody of Texas and Oklahoma League. Now, I can't guarantee that he's going to use the videos, but I think whenever you make a challenge like that, that's when you really see the creativeness and the imagination of people as far as what they think would be a good video. So whenever you come up with this idea, this is what you need to be thinking. All right. First of all, you better know Clint Foster. All right, because his stuff is crazy awesome. I watch his stuff all the time. You laugh basically every single time. He likes to do parody. So keep this in your mind, all right? So you have Texas and Oklahoma leaving the Big 12. Most of the fan bases will actually be happy to see Texas leave. Not so much Oklahoma, but Texas. Nobody likes Texas. In fact, Texas A&M is mad that Texas is coming into the SEC.
So hilarious.
So much so that I think, you know what? I think Texas A&M could, I'm not predicting it, but could end up in the Big Ten because of Texas. I'm telling you, I think it could happen. So just keep all this in your head. The reactions of the fan base, how Oklahoma and Texas will act on the way out, just stuff like that. I really want to see everybody's creativeness, imagination, get as crazy as you want, and just hit the super chat button. It's a little dollar sign. Anything you put in that super chat will go on the screen. Even if it's not in that category of video idea, you want to make a comment about something else, you want to make fun of me, that's easy to do. Or if you have a question for me and Clint Foster, super chat. There we go. It looks like people are filtering in. This is going to be a good live show. So initial reaction as far as, Texas and Oklahoma leaving early, I think we all knew that. But what about the amount of money that the Big 12 is losing to get rid of them sooner rather than later?
I didn't even realize we were losing money. My initial reaction was literally just, and I tweeted it, "Don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you." Like, get on out of here, especially Texas. I'm done.
That is a Southern saying. If y'all don't know what he's talking about, that is a Southern saying for sure.
Yes. I'm thrilled. I was texting my friends. I was like, well, I'm glad I went to Austin this last year because that's probably the last time we're going to be down there for a long time.
Dude. And that I was even more mad that they took off the home game we had with Texas because they're leaving the Big 12 with the series tied. Are you kidding? Big 12, you had an opportunity to create the tiebreaker in Morgantown, but no, you get rid of that game and you keep West Virginia and Oklahoma. Yes, there's been some good games, but the series as a whole, not competitive.
Yeah. Makes me very glad we're playing both of them one more time. And I'll probably try and get up to Norman for that game as well this year for us. But yeah, I mean, now the big question on everybody's mind is, okay, Yormark said we're going to aggressively pursue expansion. So Do you add the four corner schools? I think you have to swing for the fences and at least try to get Oregon and Washington. I know none of this sounds great to you, GBD, but the Pac-12 is where the vultures are circling. You know what I mean? So
you ready for a curveball?
Yeah.
I've been hearing some heated rumors today about, and I'm going to do a video on this, even though I don't think it's happening. Let me be clear, audience. What I'm about to say, I do not think is going to happen. All right? It's just entertainment. But I have heard from several people that Florida State out of the ACC is leading the way to try to get Oregon, Washington, Cal, and Stanford in the ACC.
What?
Doesn't even make sense. Doesn't even make sense, because what we've heard is that, teams aren't happy in the ACC. The revenue is terrible. There's 8 teams in the ACC willing to vote it out and dissolve it. And then, Florida State, the SEC. And then I heard, no. Florida State and the SEC, they have bad blood. That's why they're trying to get AU status. They're actually going to the Big Ten. And then today I hear that. I'm just like, I don't believe it. All right. That's my first reaction. I do not believe that. But if the ACC were to be able to pull something out of their rear end and get teams like that off the West Coast and become a coast to coast,
they're going to have to change their name. They're going to have to drop the A. They're just going to have to be the Coast Conference if they're going to do
just
that.
The Coast Conference. There you go.
Yeah. But can you even imagine? I mean, we were
talking the Coast Conference.
There you go. C2C.
There you go. There you
go. You can have that one for free, ACC. That's on me.
You won't charge.
But we were talking just the other night about how tough it is for West Virginia having to travel one time zone over. Can you even imagine somebody from Virginia Tech playing a game at Washington, and then the next game they're back home? What the heck, man? That's just ridiculous.
Yeah, the scheduling, that would be a logistics nightmare. Absolute nightmare. And to counter that, me and Jeff Grimm were talking, and it looks like the Pac-12 will announce very soon that all 10 teams have signed their contract TV deal for 90 years.
90?
That's what I wrote down.
What?
That's the TV deal. I don't know what the fluctuations and escalation clauses and built-in revenue streams and things that whatever. 90 years is what I'm reading. And then on top of that, that's not the grant of rights. That's just the TV deal. And then beyond that, if anyone leaves, they owe $100 million plus Gore will be 10 years. And they are adding SMU and San Diego State. That last part, SMU and San Diego State, 100% locked in. Believe it. I might even believe that all 10 teams have signed for the Pac-12, but 90-year TV deal.
That's ridiculous.
Do they have a clause in there that counts for inflation?
Or TV not being a thing anymore in 90 years? Or who knows if they'll still be letting us play football in 90 years?
There's a clause in there that says the definition of football may have changed, so this contract provides for that as well.
What the heck, man? I'm sorry, this isn't just fan brain talking. I think that SMU is a swing and a miss for the Pac-12.
Man, that's a swing and a miss and fall on your face.
Yeah, there is you're not getting any DFW eyeballs on SMU games. You are not. SMU fans don't care about SMU games on TV.
No. Or in
whatever.
person. They can't even fill out a 40,000 seat stadium.
No, it's not even 40, dude. It's not even 40.
Well, I was being generous.
Yeah, they can't even. It's 32 or something.
My God.
I mean, and
but because it has DFW, they look on the map. Oh, it's near DFW. We're going to grab that market. No, you're not. You're not.
Yeah,
you're not.
You might grab half of Highland Park, which is a neighborhood. Anyway, whatever.
The only thing that I say is positive about that is they're getting a footprint in the state of Texas.
Yeah, I mean, I think that for recruiting purposes, the California schools get a little bit a little bit more recruiting eyeballs on one game every other year or whatever it is. But whatever. To me, the Pac-12 is justifiably dying. So
In trouble, big time.
yeah, I mean, I don't know why. I mean, TV contract or no TV contract. I mean, Texas and Oklahoma did their buyout. What's to stop any of these schools that the Big 12 wants from paying a buyout on that stupid 90-year contract? Like that just sounds dumb. Like, why would you even sign any 90-year contract?
Yeah.
Like,
it doesn't even sound believable, to be honest with you.
why would you offer a 90-year contract?
I don't. It doesn't make sense. It really doesn't. You know what? Honestly, everything that I see in this tells me that maybe it could be possible that Florida State's trying to get those teams in the ACC because it's so ridiculous. A 90-year TV deal and grabbing SMU just screams red flags to me, like something bad's about to happen. Like they're trying to pack in members because they know other members are leaving. They're trying to lock it in. That way that halo of Power 5 status isn't taken off of them by the NCAA. The only argument right now for staying in the Pac-12 is research money, and because playoff expansion is now to 12 teams, and the Pac-12 is guaranteed, the Pac-12 champion is guaranteed to make a spot in the playoffs. That is the only arguments that I see as far as teams staying in the Pac-12. Otherwise, the TV deal is not going to be great. Brand strength took a big-time nosedive whenever USC and UCLA decided to leave. And that's not to say that Washington and Oregon aren't good brands, because they're really good brands.
Yeah.
And there are some decent brands besides them. But it was a massive hit. Nobody ever thought that the Big Ten was going to go all the way down to California. For them to do that, that was giving the middle finger to everybody and saying, I don't care. We're going to get the best teams that fit our criteria, and we're going to grab that LA market, and we're going to do it whether you're going to do something about it, because you can't stop us.
Yeah, well, and that's why, as bananas as that Florida State ACC news you just said is, that's why I'm not totally balking at it, because if the Big Ten is going to add USC and UCLA, that makes no sense at all. So after that happened, like, there's literally no telling where all of this could go. I mean,
well, and people wonder why I make so many conference realignment videos. Well, number one, this is the off season. All right. I've tried to explain this to people 100,000 times. All right. This is the off season. College football fans lose interest in college football. You have to come up with creative ways to keep your audience engaged and watching. On top of that, there are literally unlimited possibilities whenever it comes to conference realignment. And guess what? Whether you make fun of me, call me crazy, you're still watching. You're still watching. And that's the bottom line. You know, I've been called every name in the book, and I'm like, hey, you know what? I tell you it's for entertainment. So if you take it personal and you act like I'm an idiot, that's actually on you. You still watch the video.
Yep. You're absolutely right. So thank you for those sweet views. Yeah.
Thank you. So how's it going over there on your channel?
Going good, man. I just so actually the month of January was pretty good to me, because a lot of people tuned into my TCU fans during the national championship to make fun of me, which I was like, thank you.
Exactly. You get it.
Yeah, I will take those views and those negative comments. But honestly, there wasn't that much of it, because I was actually very shocked how really all of my interactions with Georgia fans, both in Los Angeles and Georgia fans back here in Texas, all positive, all very, very nice folks. And every fan base has jerks,
because
every
most
fan
of
base
my
has
interactions
nice
with
folks.
Georgia fans are bad, man.
Oh, really?
Terrible. Yeah, they get on my back all the time.
Yeah, so I was like, wow, this is very nice. Like, all of these Georgia fans are being so nice. But yeah, I'd written several scripts, and I finally got one of them shot on, what's today, Thursday? So Tuesday. So I've been in the process of editing that and putting it together when, all of this jumped off. And so here we are.
Yeah, it's almost like when something happens, a lot happens. It's not just like one little thing. It's like a bunch of things. And I wasn't even prepared to talk about what we are literally talking about. I was thinking about something completely different. And then the past 2-3 hours, this was just all dumped on me. I'm like, well, change the title, change the thumbnail. Joey, go get Clint Foster. Let's make something out of nothing,
Yeah.
Because today turned into a busy day out of nothing. So on top of Texas and Oklahoma leaving, we know they're going to be there in the SEC July 1st, 2024, sign on the dotted line. And they're going to pay a combined $100 million, which if they would have stayed another year, the Big 12 would have made even more money off them. That's where the loss comes in. But at the same time, the 4 teams coming in don't get any of that cut. The 8 legacy members, which is West Virginia, Iowa State, Kansas State, Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, TCU, and Baylor, they all get $12.5 million. There you go. And whenever I heard that number, I'm like, it's time to buy out Neil Brown, because the biggest argument as far as why we haven't fired Neil Brown, oh, we can't afford that. You know what his buyout is right now? $13 million. 12.5? Yeah, I think we can swing $500,000 more. Time to get rid of him. Time to start from scratch. Time to get somebody in here that knows what he's doing. And listen, if this was year 2 or 3, I'd be understanding. This is year 5.
Mm-hmm.
And last year we went 5-7, which was exactly what we went in year 1 when the cupboard was bare.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I have been the West Virginia fan that has given him every excuse in the book. Last year, it was halftime at Texas when we're getting obliterated, where I was like, I am off. We have too much talent for this crap. Our defense just non-existent. So I think it's time for West Virginia to swallow the $13 million and move on. 12.5 from this buyout. I mean, I think that somebody's trying to tell West Virginia something.
Yeah. Well, hey, who's at the top of your wish list?
You know what? I've been so busy complaining about him, I haven't made a wish list.
Anybody
I've been
else?
focused on just getting rid of him. Like a tractor beam, man. Just focus. But that's a good idea. I need to do that. Before we go any further, guys, if you haven't already, which I know some of y'all have, please hit the like button. If you're not watching us live and you're watching the replay still, please hit the like button, because that's what helps these videos hit the YouTube algorithm, gets it suggested, and helps us with the views. You have a question or a comment, you want to troll me, or you have a video idea for Clint Foster because Oklahoma and Texas are leaving the Big 12. This is the off season. Us YouTube creators, we need all the help we can get. Super Chat is the way to go. It is that little $sign that you see on the bottom right-hand corner. Anything you put in that Super Chat is going to go on the screen. And in the off season, I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. In the off season, we YouTube creators appreciate the donations even more so than the regular season. We always appreciate it, but in the off season, whenever the views go down, those donations are even more important. So there you go. I put it out there. So what are you working on right now?
Well, what I'm editing right now, and so this is sneak peek for those of you who are watching the show. So congratulations.
There you go.
It is it's the Big 12 has taken UCF and Houston to court to determine who gets sole custody of outer space. And so I've got lots of jokes in there at UCF's expense, at Houston's expense, working in the Iowa State rivalry in there. Lots of fun stuff going on.
I would have never thought about the space battle between Houston and UCF. That's pretty genius, man. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, because one of my friends, I have a friend who has met several UCF people and has joked with me a lot about how it is so ridiculous how over the top proud they are of space, as if they invented space.
Yeah.
That's
it's kind of like the battle between North Carolina and the state of Ohio as far as who actually flew first.
Oh, right. Yeah. First.
Because they were from Ohio, but the first flight actually happened in North Carolina. I mean, that's a license plate battle. Yes.
But anyway, so it's most of it is jokes at UCF's expense, but every Big 12 team makes an appearance in the courtroom. So all the new members are witnesses, and you got 2 lawyers, two Big 12 teams that are lawyers, and yeah. So I think everyone will enjoy it. I've enjoyed making it so far. So
I've seen some comments briefly saying, why are you hating on Oklahoma and Texas? So much hate for Oklahoma and Texas. Listen, no hate for Oklahoma. The hate is all for Texas. It's all Texas. I mean, we want to be clear about that. Texas fans know that. They've accepted it. They embrace it. They like it. Mm-hmm. All the hate goes to Texas. The reason Nebraska left the Big 12, the reason Missouri left the Big 12, the reason Colorado left the Big 12, the reason Texas A&M left the Big 12, Texas. And the reason why there's even a chance, whether it happens or not, the reason why there's even a chance that Texas A&M can go to the Big 10, Texas came to the SEC. So I did a video earlier on how Texas is finally gone. Do you think that that actually could open the door up in the future as far as, I don't know, maybe a little bit of a family reunion, former Big 12 teams coming back?
Maybe.
Only if, because of that escalation clause, the Big 12 can renegotiate that and, bump up the value to where teams are receiving 60 to 70 million per year, kind of be competitive.
Yeah.
Any chance whatsoever?
Well, and before I say this, let me say, in fairness to Texas, that
Right.
Texas is a huge reason why we are in the Big 12.
Yep.
The Lost Dodds was very influential in finally bringing us back into the fold, which it's like, well, you kind of owed us for screwing us over in 96. So thank you. But so I will say that. But really, I mean, Colorado is the most likely one, obviously, coming home to the Big 12. Just because, I mean, Nebraska, as brutal as the Big Ten has been for them, and as brutal as losing recruiting in Texas has been for them,
they don't fit in there, man.
They don't fit at all. They don't fit at all. But I have a hard time seeing them give up that prestige, if you will, that Big Ten exposure, that Big Ten money to come back to the Big 12. I feel like there's still a little too much of a stigma associated. Plus, I mean, oh my God, can you imagine Nebraska basketball in the Big 12 right now? That would be a nightmare for them. Yeah, and and then
right now,
and with Mizzou and A&M, like the SEC is like the Big Ten prestige and pride dialed up to 11, right? It just means more, right? So they're going to ride those coattails till they fall off. I mean, they're not going anywhere, I don't think.
Right, exactly. But I do think that if Texas would have left first, and the Big 12 could have got a better TV deal, then we'd be talking about a completely different story. I honestly think the two teams that have affected either directly or indirectly conference realignment the most would be Texas and Notre Dame. And Texas, by far, the most, number one. People don't even realize that they almost joined the Pac-12, back during the last run. I mean, they were super, super close. Could you imagine if Texas would have went to the Pac-12? Number one, they would have been a huge, huge headache to the Pac-12. But at the same time, the value of the Pac-12, I mean, we'd be having a completely different conversation as far as the survival of the Pac-12. But if Texas would have signed the dotted line, do you think we would have seen teams jump from the Pac-12 because they got sick of Texas?
I mean, yeah, Texas is kind of the pariah wherever they are. It is going to be very interesting to see how their dynamic works in the SEC. I think there's going to be a lot of the SEC telling them to sit down and shut up. Like, you're in our house now, and, you don't matter as much as you thought you did, which maybe Texas is like, oh, actually, we don't like this. It's going to be interesting to see how many 7-5 seasons in the SEC is just really going to drive them nuts on top of never getting what they want. So,
right, exactly.
But it's so delicious. I mean, and just the fact that A&M, I mean, because I have no love lost for A&M either. The fact that A&M wanted so desperately to be away from Texas, the school whose fight song, their fight song is entirely about Texas. Okay.
Yep.
They went, oh, we don't think about them at all. We want nothing to do with them. We're better than them. We've run away to the SEC, and now Texas is following them. It's just so hilarious. I mean, you couldn't write something funnier than that, in my opinion.
And now Texas is. Oh man, so I guess sometimes if you're meant to be together, even if you try to run to a different conference, you're going to end up being together.
Yeah, it's the stars
with Texas A&M and Texas.
The stars are aligned,
And then if Texas would have joined the Pac-12, we might be talking about the Pac-12 on the verge of being a mega conference.
Yeah,
so that's how strong of a brand Texas is. Now, on the flip side, just like I mentioned, how many teams would have jumped off the Pac-12 because of Texas? So it's really a lot of, what if this, what if that, because they were so close to that, and then teams left because of Texas, and now they're actually leaving. I mean, they've just single-handedly, they have really shaped conference realignment. I mean, especially in the Big 12. The Big 12 looks completely different, all because of Texas.
Yeah. By the way, I saw, somehow this had never occurred to me, but I saw on Twitter when I was catching up on all the news, somebody had drawn out on a map the suggested new SEC East and SEC West. And because Texas and Oklahoma are naturally going to be in the West, they bumped Alabama and Auburn to the East. Ooh. And I was like, oh my God. Suddenly the SEC East is legit murderer's row. Like, because I mean, just look at the teams that were good last year: Alabama, Tennessee, and Georgia, all in the same division. And then, on most years, Florida's pretty good. Most years, Auburn's pretty good. Like, good luck ever winning another game, South Carolina and Vanderbilt. You know what I mean?
Well,
like,
I will say, there for a while, the SEC West was dominating the SEC as a whole, but I think it's slowly shifting over to the SEC. In fact, this past year, I think the SEC East was a little bit better because Georgia, back-to-back national champions. Tennessee was really, really good. They beat both Alabama and LSU, the two best teams in the SEC West. South Carolina looked really good. Kentucky's really strong.
Mm-hmm.
Florida, I don't know what happened to Florida, but they're too good of a brand to stay down for very long. But they had a bad year, and then Vanderbilt almost made a bowl. I mean, the worst team, the team that you can depend on to stomp year in and year out, almost made a freaking bowl. And then you look over at the SEC West, and both Auburn and Texas A&M missed a bowl, and it's just like, what happened? Are we seeing a shift of balance of power from the SEC West to the SEC East?
Sure seems that way. Sure seems that way. And I'll tell you what, that whole deal with Florida, that's another situation where I'm like, you know what? I'm glad I'm not the one making decisions, because I wanted Billy Napier so bad for TCU. He was at the top of my wish list, and I was like, why aren't we giving him whatever he wants? Oh, geez, we settled for Sonny Dykes. I guess that's okay. We'll be mediocre, I guess. And then lo and behold, the way things turned out. Yeah, glad it wasn't my decision.
I don't even think the most loyal TCU fans saw getting to the national championship this year. Did you hear anything from anybody that could even hint towards they thought that?
No. Yeah, it was. I was like,
what was the highest expectation that you heard?
That I heard. I mean, like, highest pie in the sky, like pipe dream expectation was maybe we get some bounces and get 10 wins. Like it was never. Most everybody was like, "Hey, 8 wins. That is a huge success. We're moving in the right direction. Yay us!" We should make a bowl game. That should be the bare minimum. But maybe we get 8 wins. And nobody in their wildest dreams. I mean, I've dreamed of going to the national championship my entire life, and I did not bank on it.
I don't want to talk about that, man. I don't want to talk about that.
yeah.
I don't want to talk about that because we've had 3 shots, man. 3 shots, blew it every stinking time. Yeah. Boom to the Sooner. Thank you for the $5 donation. This is a good question. As a West Virginia fan, do the 4 new Big 12 teams excite you, and should they attempt to raid the Pac-12? Last part of your question, absolutely. Even though I'm a West Virginia fan and I don't want the Big 12 to get West heavy, my hope is yes, raid the Pac-12 and then wait for the ACC to dissolve and balance it out. I'm totally fine with the Big 12 rating the Pac-12. So, yes, the last part. First part, excite me? Oh, man.
I think it's going to be a fun conference.
No. Different, yes. Newness, yes. New faces, different matchups, yes. But as far as, actually, I'm excited, no. I can't lie. If we were bringing in rivals of West Virginia or teams from Pac-12 or other teams from the ACC, then I would say yes. But I mean, we're talking about BYU. I'm excited about BYU. I will say that BYU is a really good brand.
You'll get annoyed.
They have a national championship in recent memory back in the middle '80s. They're a strong brand. But what about you? How do you feel about the brands, the 4 new brands coming in?
I love it. I mean, and as a TCU fan, we have history with 3 of those schools.
There you go. I guess it depends on who you ask.
Yeah, BYU, that was when we were in the Mountain West, them and Utah, those were our big rivals in conference. So it's great to have them back. Houston, we've got tons of history with from the Southwest Conference, Conference USA, the WAC, and Cincinnati from Conference USA as well. And UCF seems utterly hateable. So I think it's going to be a very fun conference, and it's going to be nuts in basketball, man. It's going to be crazy in basketball, even more than it is now.
So, quick question. I didn't realize how many conferences TCU has been in. How many have they been in?
So we were in Southwest Conference forever. And then in 96, we joined the 16-team WAC. Then we jumped to Conference USA, then the Mountain West, then Big 12. And we won conference championships at every single one.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Wow. We've only been in 2.
Yeah.
Haven't won
Yeah.
a Big 12 championship, but we did win multiple Big East championships.
Mhm.
John Teal, thank you for the $5 donation, says, after San Diego State and SMU, I'm all for Fresno State and Rice, talking about the Pac-12. After that, Colorado State and Utah State feels right. But what about Tulane and Tulsa? Dude, just reading that comment makes me depressed for the Pac-12. Like, if you're excited, and like, I'm not trying to be like disrespect for anything, but if you're getting excited for Tulsa, Tulane, Utah State, Colorado State, like, out, that's red flag time. Now, Fresno State and Rice, I actually think that's smart. Rice has the academics, they have AU status. Besides football, they bring a lot to the table for the Pac 12, and it's another solid footprint in the state of Texas. Same with San Diego State. I think that's a must. I think SMU, I guess, whatever. SMU, they're getting. San Diego State's a must, and Fresno State's a must. Rice is optional. I would actually have, if I were the Pac 12, I would get Tulane over SMU. I think Tulane brings a lot more. I think you're in a better market. I think the fan base cares a lot more. I'm just, as long as they get Rice and Tulane, that way you get the footprint in the state of Texas. I'm just not understanding what all the, clapping and applauding and saying yeehaw about SMU. I don't understand the hype. I don't
wishful
see much
thinking.
from
Wishful
I guess
thinking.
having DFW, near SMU on the map makes everybody excited. But I'm trying to forewarn Pac-12 fans: don't get your hopes up about SMU. That it's not going to do much for the Pac-12. San Diego State will. Now, San Diego State doesn't make up for everything they lost in USC and UCLA losing to the Big Ten, but it helps soften the blow. And I think if they would bring in Fresno State with San Diego State, I think that would help soften it even more. You have to think about moves that's going to, number one, soften the blow, and number two, set the tone to go in the right direction. Getting SMU, that doesn't set any tone whatsoever, other than we're giving up, other than maybe there's more teams that's going to leave. That's what that tells me.
They don't fit. They don't bring anything to the conference. I mean, this is a hyper conservative, like, rich Texas. George W. Bush lives in Highland Park and goes to every SMU game. Like, this is they don't fit in the Pac-12. Now, I will say Tulane. I almost mentioned earlier that they should have gone for Tulane instead. That, to me,
I think they should.
For years. Yeah. I've been saying for years that Tulane is like a sleeping giant of a brand because there's so much likable about that school. It's in New Orleans. They used to be in the SEC. A lot of people don't know that. Yep. They opted out because they wanted to focus on academics, like in the, I don't know, like 60s or 70s. And
maybe last year they woke up in football.
Yeah, they're finally starting to invest in their football program. And there's no reason why they couldn't be a really, really solid program, especially with Power 5 funding. I mean, heck, they beat USC this last year in the Cotton Bowl. That was a heck of a lot of fun to watch. So,
yeah. And by the way, as far as the Tulsa comment, I have a really, really good subscriber in Courtney who's a Tulsa fan. That was no disrespect for Tulsa. It's just for the Pac-12, if they're getting excited for looking at Tulsa, Tulsa really doesn't do much for the Pac-12. Same for Utah State. I'm sure I have some Utah State subscribers. I mean, one of them sent me a mini helmet. I have a Utah State mini helmet, by the way. So I do have subscribers that are Utah State fans. So it's no offense to the teams of the fan base. I'm just saying for the Pac-12, the arrogance that they've projected as far as being the elitist, if now they're saying, adding SMU's great, adding Utah State's great, adding Colorado State, Tulsa, all these other teams, it's just like, but I thought you said that you were, elitist and you look down on everybody, and it just looks like now you're going against your own rules. That's what I meant by that, because their standards are supposed to be like way, 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 way up here.
Yeah.
And if you add some of those teams, then you're lying, straight up lying.
Yeah.
Hopefully I don't butcher this name real quick for the super chat. I'm going to try not to butcher this name. Let's see. Arturo Balderas. Will you say that's correct? Arturo Balderas. Thank you for the $9.99 donation. Says Big 12 should target Colorado, Arizona, Arizona State, Utah. Agree. From the Pac-12, but adds to it Memphis, Miami, Virginia Tech, NC State, and Pitt to round out the eastern half of the conference. I really like that.
21 members?
Yeah, we need to add Virginia. No, Virginia Tech.
Wait,
Louisville.
is that
We
right?
need to add Louisville in there for 22 at least.
I would like, I'd like Louisville. Man, that's a big conference.
I do
But
think
love it.
Louisville.
Yeah, I love it.
I think there's that one. Memphis. A lot of people are not talking about Memphis. I think Memphis is a sleeper right now. They are investing $200 million into the Liberty Bowl. I've seen renditions of that thing. It looks like a pro football stadium if they follow the renditions. I think once that stadium is done,
for a long time.
I think a lot of conferences are on the wait and see as far as let's see how the stadium actually looks, and then maybe we can make a decision because they do have the backing of FedEx. They have a great backing. They have a good fan base. They have a solid footprint in the state of Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of plus sides in Memphis, and a lot of people are not talking about Memphis. I really like that comment. John Teal is getting in again. Thank you for the $5 donation. Says, SMU gets us into Texas. I agree with that. With recruiting and time zone. You've made tons of videos clowning PAC after dark, and this helps solve it. AAU is hard to find. I agree with that, and I understand what you're saying. And John Teal, you know exactly why I'm clowning the Pac-12 after dark. It's because they don't put good matchups on the Pac-12 after dark. Nobody is going to stay up till 1 o'clock in the morning watching Cal versus Oregon State. It's just not going to happen.
SMU's not a good matchup on Pac-12 after dark.
Let me ask you this. SMU versus Stanford, Pac-12 at night, or Pac-12 after dark. Yeah, I got to wake up early. Good night.
Yeah.
If I don't.
Yeah.
I'm watching Sports Center instead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
And it's all right. Clint Foster's a TCU fan, all right? So he does not like SMU. But I'm a West Virginia fan. So this has nothing to do with like or dislike. I don't see the value other than what he mentioned, footprint in the state of Texas and time zone. Actually, that's a good point. Time zone. But the thing is, there's other teams that could do the same exact thing as SMU. Because I do think it's a problem for the Pac-12 with their time zone and people, getting enough eyeballs to watch those games, Pac-12 after dark. And, I know there's value in Pac-12 after dark, and ESPN wants to fill that slot with content, and they have to look to the Pac-12 because most of the other conferences are not playing at that time of the day. So they have to fill that slot with content, but if it's bad content, it's not going to work. So I understand the argument of getting into the central time zone and getting better time slots. Get a better team, though.
Mm-hmm.
That's my point. I think getting Tulane would be way smarter than getting SMU. Argument being SMU gets you in the state of Texas. Is there other teams that they should look at? I think getting UTSA would be strong. I think UTSA is an up-and-coming brand. They're in San Antonio. The fan base is starting to care.
Yes. Way more than SMU. Way more fan buy-in than SMU. People who are talking about SMU, they're not from Texas. They're not from DFW. They don't understand just how few people care about SMU. I mean, yes, from a sports standpoint, I do not like SMU. But I mean, I have friends that went there, I have no animosity for them. And I'm just saying, it doesn't make sense. It's not. I understand that you're trying to spin it good because you like the Pac-12. You know what I mean? But it's not.
And I have no beef with the Pac-12. I actually want them to make good decisions.
Sure.
And even to Kevin Wood's point, he's saying that SMU is going to be good this year. That may be true, but the fan base is still not going to care.
Yeah.
That's our point.
Yeah.
Even when they're good, the fan base doesn't care.
Yeah.
Cyclone Steve, we have an Iowa State fan chiming in. Thank you for the $5 donation. Says, looks like he's going to focus on basketball. Gonzaga, Villanova, Xavier in Olympic sports, and Army, Navy, Air Force in football, plus Memphis. So he's wanting to bring in the military academy.
Fascinating.
You would lock in the Army-Navy rivalry, which gets a ton of eyeballs.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And
Honestly,
those are 3 very annoying games to have on the schedule as somebody who watched us play Air Force every single year for a while. Those are tough to prepare for.
I would say this. If you are going to get a military academy, you do need to get all 3. So I guess the rationale is solid. I will say that. At least he's not saying, get Army and then, Tulane, South Florida, and then plus Memphis. At least he said Army, Navy, and Air Force plus Memphis. I like the Memphis pick. We already talked about the reasons why I take Memphis.
Mm-hmm.
Gonzaga, Villanova, Xavier would definitely boost us in basketball. But what I would do is I would focus on, number one, getting Gonzaga for the West and getting UConn for the East. Those two first.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to go back and double down and try to get Villanova and Xavier, that's fine. But if you're going to go that route, the basketball route, Gonzaga and UConn would be my two choices.
Yeah. Not Pitt, though? Is Pitt not good at basketball anymore?
Well, I mean, if you're going to bring in Pitt, then you're going to bring him in and in football, too. Oh, you didn't know Pitt had a football team. Yes, by the way, breaking news, Pitt does have a football team. They do.
Wow.
And unfortunately, they beat West Virginia last year, and I was there to see it in person. I don't want to talk about it. But they're coming to Morgantown this year. I will be in Morgantown for the Backyard Brawl. So if anybody watching right now, if you're going to be near Morgantown or in Morgantown to watch the game, or you're passing by for the Backyard Brawl, come stop by, see me. I'll be tailgating, and we end the game. And trust me, I'm not one of these YouTubers that thinks I'm too good to talk to people. I will talk to you. In fact, I might chew your head off. So beware if you stop by and talk to me. I like to talk a lot, which is the reason why I started a YouTube channel. I don't know if you know the story real quick, but I've been obsessed with college football since I was like 6. And whenever YouTube came out, my brothers kept hounding me, dude, you need an outlet. Dude, you need an outlet. And finally, one of my brothers just bought the setup. He's like, here's the lights. Here's the camera stand. Do it. You have no excuses. So they pushed me into it because it is a sickness, man. You either have it or you don't. It is what
brothers
it is.
are for, man. Look at them taking care of you.
Yeah, I always shout out my brothers. Absolutely. They're the ones that gave me that last. Because I don't know, like now, once you get comfortable in front of the camera and you're not scared to talk to people and stuff, it does start to come easy. But man, those first few videos, I still go back and watch my first, 5 to 10 videos just to remind myself just how bad it was starting out. So people ask me all the time, go to Blue Dude, I want to start a YouTube channel. What should I do? Start, because you're going to make mistakes. And the sooner you make those mistakes, the sooner you can learn from those mistakes.
Good advice.
There is no perfect way to start other than just start. You think I started Golden Blue Dude with all that? No way. No way whatsoever. So if you're subscribed to Golden Blue Dude, go check out my first 2 videos. And if you're not, well, subscribe first and then go check them out and you'll get a good laugh. So there you go. So what's your overall feeling, before we wrap this up, what's your overall feeling? Wait a minute. How much time do you have, by the way?
We're just chatting. We're just gabbing.
What's your overall feeling about this? I mean, are you happy that both Texas and Oklahoma are leaving, or are you just glad that Texas is leaving?
It's just, I'm glad that they're both leaving, not because I hold just a ton of animosity for Oklahoma, but it's been awkward. It's annoying that there's just this looming elephant in the room that they're leaving. They're too good for us. But we still got to stick around for a while and maybe till 2025. And they don't want to be here. We don't want them to be here, So it's nice to just be done with that. And they can go on and start losing over there. And we can actually look to the future. Yeah, they will. They will. And it's exciting to be able to look to the future and look at the Pac-12 and all of that red meat that's on the bone and all the opportunity that's there. I have a lot of faith in Yormark. I think that he can, obviously the 4 corner schools are the obvious ad. They're the easiest ad. But Oregon and Washington are out there. And if you can get Oregon and Washington, buddy, look out.
What do you think about what I told you earlier about what I'm hearing, Florida State leading the way to trying to get Oregon and Washington in the ACC? I mean, what would that do for the ACC? If a miracle does happen and they can land it, what's that going to do for them?
I mean, obviously the ACC gets a big boost. But I don't know, man. If you're Oregon and Washington, would you want to do that? Would you want to be out there on an island in Puget Sound, having to go to the Atlantic coast for all of your games? I mean, the risk and reward, it doesn't seem to me, that at least the Big 12, it's a little bit closer. I feel like there's not a whole lot of value added going to the ACC over the Big 12. There's definitely value added leaving the Pac-12 for either of those.
Right.
But I don't think that you're getting a lot more bang for your buck going all the way to the ACC with all the headache that you're having to deal with,
Here's what I think. If if that's going to happen, then then Oregon and Washington will make sure that it's worth their trouble. So if there's negotiations going on, it will be based on, hey, what kind of renegotiations are you going to do with the TV deal? Because with the current TV deal, it's not going to happen. End of story. If ESPN doesn't budge off that TV deal, it's not going to happen. But if you really think about this, all right, really think about this. What did we just talk about? We talked about that time slot, Pac-12 after dark, and that's what purpose the Pac-12 serves for ESPN. If they are able to get some West Coast teams in the ACC, then you could be looking at some really crazy matchups in that Pac-12 after dark. Even though it technically wouldn't be called Pac-12 after dark, it would be more like coast to coast after dark. I think that could be interesting if it happened. I think there's a lot of possibilities. I will say this. If that happened, then the Pac-12 is basically a dead conference walking. I mean, because you're not going to add any type. I mean, you're going to, even if you added, 8 group of 5 teams to the Pac-12, it's not going to make up losing Oregon, Washington, USC, and UCLA. And you already know this. It doesn't matter whether I believe something or not. If I find it entertaining, if I think it's going to start a conversation or an argument, I'm going to make a video on it. So you already know what I'm going to be doing a video on tomorrow. You already know.
Yeah. Well, and am I wrong in saying though that Pac-12 after dark, as it's currently constructed, and like the craziness that you associate with Pac-12 after dark, that really more fits the Big 12's brand, I feel like, than it does the ACC's. Like, to me, Texas Tech Oregon or TCU Washington has that same Pac-12 after dark feel of like, oh, this is gonna be wild. We don't know what's gonna happen. You can plug in literally any Big 12 school with one of those two, and you're like, oh man, like, West Virginia, Utah, that's Pac-12 after dark, baby. You don't know what there's gonna be. It's gonna go nuts,
Dude, BYU, Utah, Pac-12 after dark.
Having them back together would be great.
Crap.
Yeah. Yes.
Man. Okay, but at the same time, did it feel like that USC and UCLA was going to be a Big Ten pick? Did that feel like a Big Ten move?
No.
Until it happened, until a month after it's been. Now I've accepted. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. Academics, they won the LA market, but at the time when it happened, or before it happened, it just wouldn't have made sense. Like, I don't know if I could see UCLA and USC going to the Big Ten. I mean, that would be a logistics nightmare.
It is.
They would be getting a lot of money, but they also get a lot of research money, over there in the Pac-12, and the time zone is going to be crazy. The jet lag is going to be crazy. So there was a bunch of excuses why that would never happen. So I'm just saying, crazy things have already happened, so I'm not ruling anything out. That doesn't mean I believe it's going to happen. It just means I'm not ruling it out.
I cannot wait to see UCLA have to play Minnesota in the snow. Or USC in Camp Randall, Wisconsin, in the snow.
Well, for USC fans, I've already heard this. Well, we've played Notre Dame in the snow before, blah blah blah. Yeah, but this is going to be a guarantee. You're guaranteed to be going in the Midwest in December at least once a year. Whether it's Notre Dame, whether it's Minnesota, whether it's Wisconsin, heck, even it snows in Nebraska. In November, early December. So you're gonna get it. It's guaranteed. So it's not once every 4 years a perfect snowstorm comes through when you're in South Bend. It's not gonna be like that. You're gonna be playing in cold weather a lot.
Yeah. Gonna be interesting.
the excuse for the Big Ten and the SEC is the SEC doesn't want to play up north because of snow, and the Big Ten doesn't have success in the South because of the humidity.
Heat, yeah.
Well, yeah, the heat and humidity. Well, what's that say about USC? If that were ironclad true, what does that say about USC and UCLA having to play? I mean, will they actually ever get used to it?
No. How could you?
Well, yeah, exactly. Because
you're gonna have new kids
practicing
every 4 years.
All your home games. You get the UCLA. Most of your life is in that California sun. So those, I don't know. Let's say they play, and this is being conservative. Let's say they play 3 games in the cold every year. Okay, but you're going to spend a total of maybe 2 or 3 days because of practice and all that stuff before the game. So you're going to say that, 370 or 380 days out of the year, you're in the California sun, but those 6 to 10 days in the cold isn't going to affect them, or they'll get used to it. I don't think so. I don't buy it.
No, you're going to leave in early December. You're going to get on a plane in LA when it's going to be, at the coldest in the 60s, and then you're going to get off the plane in Wisconsin and it's going to be, 12. Like that's not something you're just like, oh, okay, I'm used to it.
You know what they're going to do too? They're going to be like, I'm not smoking, coach. What is that stuff that I see? Oh, son, it's cold. That's your breath. Okay.
My fingers sting. What does it mean? I'm joking about
like
this.
My
we
body's
literally shut down DFW
cramping
for a
up
week
all
because
over.
of ice.
Coach, is somebody poking me with 1,000 needles? Because that's what it feels like right now.
Yeah.
Well, on top of that, it's not just that. You got to combine that with the time thing too. So it's going to be way colder, and it's going to be way later.
Yeah, you lose 2 hours. Yeah.
It's completely different as far as people going to them because they're gaining time. Well, they lose it on the way back, but still, it's got to mess with them, especially if they have multiple trips out there.
2 hours is a big difference because I lived out in LA for 3 years a few years ago when I was doing comedy out there. And you forget about it until you're like trying to call a family member back home. And you're like, oh God, like you're already like going to bed, or you've been up all day, like, and I'm just getting up, it's a big difference. Yeah,
exactly. I agree with that, and I USC fans, they always pull the Notre Dame argument. I just don't see them having, and I do think that Lincoln Riley was a good hire. But I just think being in the Big Ten, it's going to take them a while to get used to it. I don't think they're going to come out swinging. I don't think they're going to have a 10-win season until like year 4, year 5. And that's no knock on Lincoln Riley because I think he's a good coach. I just think it will affect them that much.
Well, yeah, because they will, competition-wise, USC's been on the upswing, and the Big Ten outside of Ohio State and Michigan is simply not very good. So I do think they can have an immediate start competing for conference championships. But yeah, those late games, you're going to have some late season swoons if they're playing any of those games on the road, for sure.
John Teal is definitely defending the Pac-12 again. We appreciate your $5 donation. But SMU brings in academic, which me and Clint agree with that. They're 72 national, and UTSA is outside of 500. We both know that as well. Yeah. Also, they have biggest NIL in a group of 5. That I didn't know. I'm going to have to look into that. Pair them with Rice and Go. It's just I understand the arguments for SMU. I do, because it's on the academic side of things, and the Pac-12 has been about the academics. But at the same time, I just think there's better options that can combine, even if it's not UTSA. That was just me throwing something against the wall. It doesn't have to be UTSA. But there has to be better teams out there that combine athletics with football. SMU's fan base just doesn't get, there's not enough of it. The thing that people don't understand about the state of Texas, especially when you get into Dallas, Fort Worth, Waco, Austin, Houston, that section, I say little, but Texas is a big state. That section right there.
You're talking about like 3 hours of.
Yeah. It's one state, but it's probably like really 3 states. But you're having to split the pie between Texas, Texas A&M, TCU,
Texas
Baylor,
Tech.
Houston. By the time you get to SMU, you're at least down to number 6, and that's not even counting Texas Tech. And Texas Tech is heavy in that area, so SMU might be down to number 7.
Yeah. And hey, here's the thing: back in the '80s, when SMU elevated cheating to an art form and they were winning, they were filling up the Cotton Bowl back then. Yes, they had fans back then, but ever since they got the death penalty, they have not been able to generate any interest whatsoever. Right. Even in their very, very best year under Sonny Dykes, right? They just didn't have, they weren't packing out that stadium. all of the positives with wrapped up with SMU right now, it's all conjecture. It's like, well, maybe, they have this going for them, they have got that going for them. Maybe if it all goes right, then it can be a good ad. But it's looking at what it is right now, the value isn't there, right? It's
Right.
you're telling yourself a story of what you hope is going to be true. I wouldn't want SMU in the Big 12, and not just because I'm a TCU fan. Right? They don't
I
add
don't see any value bringing them into the Big 12 either. And to me, I want the teams that are in the Pac-12 right now to have success, whether it's in the Pac-12 or whether it's in a different conference. I want them to have success. Since the Pac-12 has missed the playoffs, 7 straight years, I feel like that the West Coast not being represented in the playoffs leaves a hole. Like I felt like there's been a hole in the playoffs because the West Coast hasn't been represented. Now, with the playoff expansion, they're guaranteed their champion will make it, so they will get represented. But I want the Pac-12, if the Pac-12 is going to survive, 2 options for me with the Pac-12. Survive and get great brands, or the great brands in the Pac-12 need to go where they need to go. Those are 2 options. They shouldn't be relegated down to getting, scraps out there like your SMUs and even Tulane. I mean, compared to a Power 5 brand, Tulane's not that great, but you're making the best out of a bad situation. Picking up a group of 5 brands, Tulane's up there. But it just seems like the Pac-12 is taking a big step back compared to where they were. And I understand the Pac-12 is trying to make the best out of a bad situation, but it really just tells you they know that if they don't make some moves, they're in trouble. I just don't know that the moves that they're making are all that smart. I mean, honestly, hopefully, I hope they do work out. I hope we're both wrong, and we big swing and a miss on this one, and the Pac-12 does benefit greatly. I'm just saying I don't buy it right now. David Z says, and thank you for the $2 donation, says, Yormark better than Klavkov. Yep. By a mile. Go Cyclones. Just the past, how long has Yormark been the commissioner in the Big 12?
Has he even been a full year yet? I don't think.
No, months.
Yeah.
Months.
So far,
he's already talking to Gonzaga, and we already heard rumors of the Four Corners. Whether that happens or not, we know that he's actually pursuing them. We've heard that he's interested in ACC teams. The dude is all over the place. He is a hustler. He is the one conference commissioner that you are hearing about all the time right now. He knows that the Big 12 brand is not like the SEC. Like the SEC sells itself. So Sankey really doesn't have to do any hustling. People go to the SEC. The SEC doesn't have to go to people. Same with the Big 10. For the Big 12, we've been hurt. The Big 12 has been hurt and damaged. So our brand isn't as strong. It doesn't sell itself right now. Yormark is going out there and selling it to people. He is making phone calls. He is plane trip here, plane trip, and he's getting his name out there, which is really, really smart. George Klavkov is just like crickets. Whenever I heard about him visiting SMU, that's the first time I even saw his name in the news or on ESPN in like months. I'm like, this guy take like a 3-month nap? What happened? Rip Van Winkle?
Yeah,
man.
I have been very pleased with Yormark. Very pleased, very, very pleased, and I think he's doing a great job of selling the conference, just like you're talking about. Yeah. Not a single complaint. I'm excited to see where we go.
Seriously, John Teal is making a last point. Appreciate the $5 donation doing so. He says last point. Yes, there's better teams, but who's available? Fair point. There's no blue bloods coming in. So grassroots is reality. That's the point that we're making, actually, is the fact that nobody saw that USC and UCLA was going to go to the Big 10. And the rumors of the Four Corners of the Big 12, whether it pans out or not. And then the rumors that I heard today, which I'm definitely doing a video on, whether it happens or not. The ACC, led by Florida State, interested in getting Washington and Oregon, maybe even more. The point that I'm making is all this shows us that the Pac-12 is in trouble. The fact that the Pac-12 is pursuing – I don't know who you're a fan of, John Teal. I'm trying to see your picture, maybe an Oregon fan. Can you tell?
I think that says Brazilian something.
Oh, okay. John, if you want to tell us in the comments so we can know who you're a fan of. But the point is, whatever team you're a fan of in the Pac-12, do you remember a time where you thought that the Pac-12 would ever have to go after a San Diego State, after an SMU, after a Tulane, after the list goes on, group of five. I mean, this move by USC and UCLA has flipped the Pac-12 on its head. Maybe they can pull a Big 12 off. The Big 12 seems to be stabilized. They went out and got 4 pretty good brands from group of 5. But even before that, to be honest, before even before Oklahoma, before West Virginia and TCU even joined the Big 12, did Big 12 fans ever think that they would be relegated to trying to get a Cincinnati, a UCF, a Houston, compared to how they were? It's a great decision now. It was the right decision. I'm not knocking the decision. But you rewind back to where the Big 12 was, and it was probably unheard of. They probably would have laughed in your face.
Well, and you want to talk about better teams available. I mean, nobody's talking about Boise State. I assume it's an academic question of why they wouldn't add Boise State.
Academics.
But I mean, you were talking about, with the exception of the last couple of years, Boise State has been a perennial top 25 program. They have done everything right. And I guarantee you, whenever Boise State plays, even now, after a couple of years of being down, infinitely more people want to tune into a Boise State game than they do an SMU game. Infinitely more. Right?
Honestly,
from all over the country.
Honestly,
because they remember
for
the
Big
Fiesta
12,
Bowl.
I would have taken BYU, Boise State, Cincinnati, and UCF. I know Houston has that massive TV market, but I mean,
But realistically, and I mean, I'm glad we added Houston. I think they'll be a good add, but they don't add the Houston market just like SMU doesn't add the Dallas market.
Right.
The
That's
Houston
the
market
point.
is Texas and A&M. It's not Houston. There's a lot of people that went to Houston, but most of them watch Texas.
And unfortunately for Boise State, I think this last go around with the Big 12 was their best chance of getting to a Power 5 conference, because now with the new TV deal in the Big 12, they're not guaranteed to be able to bump up the revenue if the Big 12 adds any more Group of 5 teams. So Boise State went up here as far as value Group of 5 to way down here. They're not even going to be thought about in the Big 12. Pac-12 is obviously too good for them because of the academics. I feel bad for Boise State fans. They've done everything they can. They can't help that they live in a state where the population is not that big, but Boise State does draw in basically the entire population of Idaho. It's just the academics is what hurt them getting into the Pac-12. And I really do think that the Big 12 missed an opportunity with Boise State. Boise State, whether it's for the right reason or the wrong reason, something makes you want to watch a game on that blue field.
Yeah, it's a weird blue field to be on. Let me tell you, my junior year we played up there.
Really?
And standing on that thing, yeah, because we played Boise twice.
Yeah, you're in the Mountain West. Yeah.
Yeah, we were only conference based with them once, but we went up there my junior year and played on that blue field, and it's very disorienting to be standing on that, because it feels like I'm not on grass, which you're not. You're on turf, but yeah, it's very bizarre to say the least.
The top 4 weirdest fields that I've never been to any of them in person. I almost went to one this year, the Myrtle Beach Bowl, but I wasn't able to make it because of other engagements. But the 4 weirdest looking fields in all of college football: Eastern Washington with the red field, Boise State with the blue field, Coastal Carolina with the teal field, and I think it's either Western Michigan or Central Michigan with the gray field. Out of all 4 of those, ranking them in weirdness, I would actually say Boise State is the least weird with the blue.
Sure.
The third weirdest would be Coastal Carolina with the teal. Second weirdest would be Eastern Washington with the red. But the weirdest one, especially watching it on TV, I can't even imagine how it looks in real life. Eastern Michigan, thank you, Talking Sports. Eastern Michigan, I've seen highlights on TV on that Eastern Michigan. It makes you feel like you're watching TV in the 50s and 60s. I can't even imagine what it would feel like in person. I mean, it really blows your mind.
Looks like you're playing on an aircraft carrier or something.
Yeah, like or on a big frying pan or something. It's crazy.
Wow.
And I guess depending on what team you're playing, that could have an effect on your eyes as well. I mean, what if you're playing a team who's either they're wearing a gray alteration or their colors actually involve gray? I mean, that can mess with you even more.
Yeah, and I've thought about that often, because the year that we played Boise up there, they actually wore all like hunter orange. So,
Yeah.
but I've often thought about like if they were wearing their usual all blue, like
You'd be tackling the field.
yeah,
Oh,
like
wait.
it's oh
Dang
man,
it.
so weird. Like oh, there he went. Man,
The announcer's like, this one dude is for whatever reason he took off down the left sideline tackling an invisible man. I don't know
oh
what's going
yeah,
on with
God
him.
bless the announcers having to have to ever call a game with
Oh
all blue.
man,
Why is he staying on a
yeah.
blue field? Jeez.
I'm just glad more teams don't do that because I was scared for a minute that was going to turn into a trend. We'd be seeing all kinds of crap out there, man.
Yeah, yeah.
Having said that, whenever painted end zones first started coming in, most people thought that was the craziest thing they ever saw in their life, and that turned into something. So I
Yeah.
guess never say never.
Yeah, I mean the crazy basketball courts has definitely taken off. I mean we're 100% on that train with the lizard skin basketball court.
Who's the NBA team who has the great court? Who is that? The Brooklyn Nets that have that? I
Do they
watched the
have a great
highlight.
court? I don't watch enough NBA.
It's weird. I think it's Brooklyn Nets. I think, but I was watching. So the night that LeBron James broke the all-time scoring record, I was flipping around, and I think I was seeing highlights from the Brooklyn Nets, and their court was like all grayish, and it really messed with me because you see a gray court, and then the crowd is normal. So it looked like the players were playing on black and white TV, but the crowd was normal. I'm like, was my filters? What's going?
Did it look like kind of like a New York like basketball park, or it's just like
Yeah, I think so, and
yeah.
maybe the New York skyline, something weird going on. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
I don't
it
think
really
they get
messed
any
with me.
weirder than Oregon's though. Oregon's court is very weird to me with the trees.
Yeah, I mean it's somebody just went on there and did a freaking painting
Yeah. Yeah, it's wild.
and like leaves and stuff. It's crazy, man.
Mm.
But man, I took up an hour of your time, and I appreciate you coming on. Hopefully, I gave you some good exposure. You guys need to check out Clint Foster and his YouTube channel. I know I do. It's great stuff over there, great content, and I promise you, me and Clint will do more live shows together because I have fun. Hopefully, you do. So what I like to do, I didn't get to do this last time. I forgot. But what I like to do is before I end the show, I like to give my guests what I call the last word. So I'm going to let you go ahead. You can talk about your channel. You can talk about TCU. Whatever you want to talk about, this is your last word on the Golden Blue Live Show.
All right. Well, I appreciate that, man. I always love coming on. And I charged my phone this time, so I didn't blitz out before the show.
I thought it was
over.
your reception. I was like, oh, I guess his Wi-Fi went down.
Joey's no, like, my phone died, and I was like,
died.
no. But okay, yeah. So yeah, please do check out my YouTube channel. I should have a new video coming out by this weekend. That courtroom one that we've been talking about. Got some other scripts written. I'm just waiting to shoot them. Just gotta find time to do it with my full-time job and everything else. Please follow me on Twitter at Clint_Foster55. I make really bad jokes and I talk about TCU. So, if that sort of thing interests you.
I don't even follow you on Twitter. I didn't realize you had a Twitter. I will definitely
follow I'm active, man. I'm active on Twitter.
And just to put this nugget out here, me and Clint haven't talked about this, but I'm just saying, you never know what the future might hold. You might see a Clint Foster cameo on a Golden Blue video, and you might see a Golden Blue cameo on a Clint Foster video. Just saying.
Yeah.
Never say never.
Yes. Oh, you just gave me some ideas, actually. So
that's what I do, man.
Thank you for that.
Good job, buddy. Appreciate you.
Yeah.
Have a good night.
It's fun, man. You too.
All right.
Go Frogs.
You had to get that in there. There you go.
You said last word. There it is.
I love the sign, too, man. That's awesome. There you go, guys. Clint Foster, great show. Appreciate everybody stopping by. Comments, likes. Make sure to hit the like button on the way out if you haven't already. If you're watching the replay, please hit the like button. All good stuff. We're going to wrap this up Thursday night. Have a good rest of your Thursday. We'll be back Friday, probably 10 p.m., trying to keep consistent. Don't know what I'm going to talk about. We'll figure out something. But for now, Golden Blue is out.